Okay, so picture this. You're getting close to retirement, you've built up a nice little nest egg, something you're really proud of. But now you're stuck in that classic dilemma. You need that money to keep growing, right? But you're also absolutely terrified of losing it all in a market crash. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a financial product designed to solve that exact puzzle, the indexed annuity. I mean, this is the question, isn't it? It's the dream. You want all the upside that the market can offer, but you just can't stomach the thought of watching your life savings disappear. It feels like you have to choose one or the other, the rocket ship or the shield. But what if there was a way to get a little bit of both? So let's dive into how this thing works. It's designed to find that elusive middle ground for your savings. It's not your typical stock market play, and it's definitely a step up from a simple fixed-rate annuity. Let's take a look at what makes it so different. At its heart, an indexed annuity is basically a contract you make with an insurance company, and the promise is pretty straightforward. Your interest earnings are linked to a market index, say the S&P 500, so you get the potential for some nice growth. But, and this is the big one, your initial investment, your principal, is protected if the market goes down. You know, the best way I've heard this explained is to think of it like bumper lane bowling with your retirement money. Those bumpers, make sure you'll never, ever throw a gutter ball. Your principal is totally safe from market drops. But those same bumpers can also get in the way, right? They might stop you from hitting that perfect strike and getting the market's biggest scores. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How can they promise you gains tied to the market without actually putting your money in the market? It's a pretty clever system. Let's look at both the engine that makes it go and the brakes that slow it down. It all comes down to how the insurance company structures this thing. They take your money, put most of it in super safe investments to cover your principal, and then they use a tiny slice to buy options on the market index. Now, those options are what give you the upside potential, but the cost of those options is also why there are limits on your growth. And those limits usually come in two main flavors. First up, you've got what's called the participation rate. This is just the percentage of the market's gain that you actually get credit for. And it's so important to understand that you almost never get 100% of the market's upside. So, a pretty typical participation rate might be something like 80%. What does that mean? Well, if the market index goes up by 10%, your account gets credited with an 8% gain. Simple as that. Now, the second break on your earnings is the rate cap. And this is exactly what it sounds like. A hard ceiling. It's the absolute maximum interest rate you can earn in a given year, no matter how high the index goes. So let's say your contract has a 4% cap. Even if the market has an absolutely killer year and goes up 20 or 30%, it doesn't matter. The most you're going to get is 4%. It's a hard stop on your earnings. Let's see how these two limits work together. Let's use a $10,000 example. Okay, imagine the market has a fantastic year. It's up 15%. Great. With your 80% participation rate, you'd think you'd get a 12% gain, which is $1,200. But wait, then that 4% rate cap kicks in. So instead of that nice $1,200 gain, your final credited gain for the year is just $400. Big difference, right? But here's the other side of that deal. This is the whole point. What happens if the market has a terrible year and drops by 10%? This is where that principal protection saves the day. Your account loses nothing. Zero. Zilch. That $10,000 is perfectly safe. That's the bumper lane doing its job. So, you see, this product is all about the trade-off. You're getting safety, but you're giving up some of that high-flying potential. Now, let's really dig into some of the other limits and potential risks you absolutely have to know about. So, what's the catch? And Investopedia really nails the main drawback right here. You're not getting the full upside when the market does well. Your gains are limited. It's just like we saw in that example. When the market is soaring, you're only getting a small slice of that pie. And just to give you some context, let's quickly compare it to its much more conservative cousin. A fixed annuity is simple. You get a set, guaranteed interest rate. It's super low risk, but that rate might not even be enough to beat inflation. The indexed annuity, on the other hand, gives you the potential for higher growth, but with all those caps and limits we just talked about. Beyond those limited gains, there are some other really serious things to think about. First, surrender fees. If you need your money back early, sometimes within the first 10 years, you are going to pay a heavy penalty. These are not liquid investments. Then you've got the standard IRS penalties for any withdrawals before you're 59 and a half. Also, don't forget inflation risk. The guaranteed minimum can be as low as 0, meaning your safe money could actually be losing buying power year after year. And finally, remember that your guarantee is only as solid as the insurance company writing the check. So, where does that leave us? With all this on the table, the big question is whether this kind of product actually makes sense for you and your financial plan. And honestly, it all boils down to how you feel about one single core trade-off. And this is it. This is the whole thing in a nutshell. You are making a conscious choice to give up the chance to hit a home run when the market takes off. In exchange for that, you get an ironclad guarantee that you will never, ever strike out when the market tanks. So we're going to end on this question. And there's no right or wrong answer here, because it's completely personal. When it comes to your retirement, to your peace of mind, what matters more to you? Is it the guaranteed safety from any and all losses, or is it the unlimited potential for those huge gains? That's the question you really have to answer for yourself.